What if the version of you've been trying to fix was never really you to begin with? What if the shame you carry isn't yours? What if the personality you've been healing was built in defense of someone else's fear? They called you too much, too angry, too dramatic, and you believed them. Because when a mirror is all you've ever known, it's hard to believe the reflection might be wrong. But what happens when the mirror lies? What happens when you realize you've built a whole identity around someone else's projections? Let me ask you something real. What parts of you were shaped by someone else's inability to hold their own pain? How many traits you call flaws were actually survivor roles you inherited from someone who refused to face their shadow? This is Empowered Shadows, and tonight we're pulling the mask off the mirror. Because healing isn't just about what you lost. It's about what you became trying to be loved. And the truth is, you weren't broken. You were projected onto. And now it's time to come home to the self beneath the story, to the truth beneath the label, to the woman you were before they told you who you had to be. How projections shape your identity. Projections don't arrive with warning labels. They arrive as assumptions, accusations, assignments. They sound like you're just like your father. You're always so dramatic. You never listen. You make everything about you. Judgments that sound like facts, and over time, those judgments become your internal script. You start to over-explain because someone told you you're too defensive. You start to shrink because someone told you you take up too much space. You walk on emotional eggshells because someone told you your needs are dangerous. It works. And for a while, until you forget who you were. Before, you were busy proving you weren't who they said. Projection turns into performance. Performance turns into personality. But the body remembers the difference. And the soul, she's done playing roles she never auditioned for. So ask yourself, who would I be if I stopped rehearsing who they needed me to be? The emotional cost of carrying false reflections. The danger of projection isn't just what others see in you. It's what you stop seeing in yourself. You forget your softness because they feared your truth. You forget your intuition because they mocked your knowing. You forget your light because they mistook it for a threat. So you dim. You contort. You carry someone else's shadow like it's your birthright. But that shame, it was never yours. That fear, inherited. That voice inside saying, maybe I am too much, was born from their fear of your fullness. You didn't ask to be their screen. You just wanted love. So you performed caretaker, scapegoat, good girl, silent one, peacemaker. Not identities, survival roles. You were demonized for your emotions, shamed for your sensitivity, told to man up in your own home with a man who claimed to love women. But if he wanted a man, he should have chosen one. You weren't sent here to perform masculinity just to be respected. You are a woman. You don't have to become a man just to be loved by one. When projection becomes psychological possession. Projection isn't just a misunderstanding. It becomes a form of psychological hijacking, especially from narcissists, sociopaths, or manipulators. They don't mislabel you. They impose an identity onto you, then punish you for trying to remove it. You're not just too sensitive. You're unstable. You're not just emotional. You're dangerous. You're not just setting boundaries. You're aggressive. And if they're skilled, if they've done this before, they plant those ideas so subtly, so consistently, you start to wear them. You start to live them. Over time, it isn't just projection. It becomes possession. Possession of your thoughts, your body, your self-perception. Especially if it starts young, if it's reinforced by a family system, even coupled with fear, isolation, or dependence. And if it's spiritual, if that person traffics in dark intention, manipulation, or energetic witchcraft, the impact goes deeper than psyche. It touches the soul. You'll think you're cursed, but the real curse was believing them. Their shadow disguised as your truth, overwritten onto your mirror. But the spell breaks the moment you see it. And once you name it, it can't name you anymore. Reclaiming the reflection that was always yours. There's a strange grief that comes when you finally see yourself without the mask. It's not always empowerment at first. Sometimes it's shock. You look in the mirror and realize you've never actually met your own eyes. Never met your own eyes without someone else's opinion clinging to your skin. It's like waking up from someone else's dream and finding your name missing from the crate. You see the softness you learned to weaponize, the light you were told to dim, the truth you buried beneath politeness and performance. And you wonder, who would I have been if no one ever handed me a script to survive? The question burns, because now you feel the weight of years spent becoming palatable, years spent being what they needed while starving who you actually were. It's disorienting, liberating, violent, and sacred all at once. Because it wasn't just a mask you wore, it became your second skin. And now you're peeling it back, slowly, ruthlessly, with trembling hands and holy rage. You start to realize what they feared in you was never dangerous. It was divine. They projected their emptiness. You carried it like identity. And now you are done. The part of healing that's clean doesn't exist. It's not polished. It's messy with mourning, sticky with shame, trembling with truth. But in that grief, there's something new, a flicker, a voice, a mirror that doesn't distort but reveals. And when you finally see yourself, not through their eyes, but through your own, you realize you were never too much. You were never too emotional. You were never the threat. You were just powerful, and they couldn't hold it. Now you can. And that is what changes everything. When the world is hell-bent on making you the problem, it's not always one person. Sometimes it's all of them. A spouse who resents your softness, in-laws who treat you like a threat, friends who cheer your breakdowns but grow silent around your breakthrough, and family. Sometimes they've been gaslighting you for so long, you start to wonder if you really are the unstable one. Because that's how it works. They don't just hurt you, they rearrange reality around you. They rearrange reality around you until you doubt your own memory, your own motives, and your own mind. They create chaos, then call you dramatic. They cross boundaries, then call you difficult. They isolate you and then call you the toxic one. And at first, you fight it. You try to prove you're not what they say. You apologize for things you didn't do. You perform perfection. You over-explain, over-function, over-give until eventually you stop trying. You go silent because no matter what you say, they twist it. So you start questioning yourself. You replay every conversation. You second guess every decision. You scan for reactions, walk on eggshells, beg your body to stay quiet. This is the internal fallout. This is what projection does over time. It makes you suspicious of your own soul. And when you finally try to talk about it, they look at you with tilted heads and careful eyes like you're the danger. They don't hear you, they study you, not to understand, but to gather evidence for their case against you. And just like that, you're trapped in a loop. The more honest you are, the more unstable you seem. The more boundaries you set, the more abusive you're painted. The more calm you stay, the more manipulative they say you are. It's not just gaslighting. It's a slow crucifixion of your character, disguised as concern. But here's the truth they hope you never find. The moment you start to see the pattern, the spell starts to break. That quiet whisper inside you, the one that goes, maybe it's not me. That voice is sacred. That's not paranoia. That's awakening. You weren't crazy. You were surrounded. And now you're beginning to remember. You're remembering the way your body tenses around liars. You're remembering the pit in your stomach before betrayal. You're remembering the peace that came every time you pulled away. That's your proof. That's your power returning. And once you taste it, you'll never swallow their shame again. Returning what was never yours. You don't have to keep what was handed to you, even if it came wrapped in family. If it looked like love, even if it showed up early and loud and constant, you can't return it. All of it. The shame, the silence, the twisted labels, the fear that made you question your own mind. You don't owe anyone your identity just because they couldn't handle your truth. So send it back. The label of crazy, the assignment of difficult, the costume of too emotional. Wrapped it in their projection. Mark it with their fear. Deliver it to the fire. Because that was never your mirror. It was their shadow reflected through your light. Now, look again. This time with your eyes. This is not who they told you to be. This is who you are. And it won't feel familiar. It'll feel like freedom. Emotional sovereignty. The right to feel what's yours. Now that you've returned what was never yours, you're left with something unfamiliar. Your own emotional truth. Unfiltered, untamed, unapologetically yours. It's messy at first because for so long you were told to regulate, not feel, to be agreeable, not honest, to stay quiet, stay nice, stay soft, or else. But you're not playing that game anymore. You feel rage and let it rise. You feel grief and let it pour. You feel joy and no longer shrink to avoid making others uncomfortable. Your emotions are not threats. They are truth. They are not dramatic. They are divine data from your nervous system, from your memory, from your soul. You don't owe politeness for the parts of you that were wounded. You don't need to explain your tears, or dull your shine, or edit your depth. And when someone says you're too sensitive, you'll finally know how to respond. I'm not too sensitive. I'm just no longer numbing myself for your comfort. Emotional sovereignty means you know what's yours and you return what's not. It means you hold space for your fire without letting it burn you down. You honor your water without drowning in someone else's storm. You feel what you feel and you trust yourself to survive it because your feelings are not the problem. Pretending they didn't exist, that was the problem. And now, you choose truth, you choose presence, you choose to stay fully with yourself, even when it's loud, even when it's ugly, even when it makes no one else feel safe but you, because you are the sanctuary now. Reclaiming the self beneath the survival. You've dropped the mask, returned the projections, grieved the version of you who only knew how to perform. Now you stand at the threshold of your own becoming. This isn't a glow up. This isn't rebranding your pain. This is a raw resurrection of the self you buried to keep the peace. The self they try to erase with lies, guilt, and shame. The self who stayed silent just to stay safe. And now she rises. Not polished, not perfect, but present. The woman who walks forward from here, she doesn't explain her softness. She doesn't translate her boundaries. She doesn't beg to be understood by people committed to misunderstanding her. She's not asking for approval. She's not performing clarity. She is clarity. This is the moment you no longer flinch in the mirror. You see yourself clearly, maybe for the first time. And you don't apologize. You remember. You are not a phase of healing. You are not a projection to manage. You are not someone else's cautionary tale. You are the proof that truth can survive distortion and still shine. This is your return, your reflection, your name spoken in your own voice. And when you walk through this threshold, you don't bring their shadow with you. You don't carry their shame in your body. You don't echo their pain, you move forward, whole, honest, and yours. They told you who you were, and you almost believed them. They fed you roles, shame, fear, and you wore it like skin, just to belong to something that was never safe. But you don't live there anymore. You peeled off the mask. You returned the curse. You broke the spell with nothing but your voice and the body that remembered what truth felt like. And now, you don't flinch. You don't fold. You don't beg to be seen in rooms that require silence to stay. You are not their reflection. You are not their scapegoat. You are not their story. You are the one who remembered, the one who awakened, the one who walked away with her soul intact. You are not here to be palatable. You are here to be powerful. You are the mirror now, clear, grounded, unshakable. And if they look into you and see only themselves, that's not your burden to carry. That's your boundary to honor. Let them call you too much. Let them call you dangerous. Let them call you anything they need to avoid calling themselves out. You've already come home to the only name that matters, yours. You don't belong to their projections anymore. You belong to your truth, and it belongs to you. This is Empowered Shadows. Thank you for listening.